Walk the squawk.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Walk the Squawk podcast. We've been going through hell to try and make this podcast come true, and finally we were having our breakfast and thought, why don't we just do it now with a cup of cacao? So a lot's happened to us in the last couple of years. I mean, Hazel and I have been together since we met in December 2020. But these past few months have just been a complete tornado. And we're using this podcast to share our wisdom about how relationships work in divine union, because it's part of our divine purpose to lead people back to their own true nature of who they truly are, the innate being, the innate soul, true love within and together. And we've achieved that, and it's incredible. And some of the stuff that's happened just in the past few days is really going to raise some eyebrows when we publish what has happened. And we're going to discuss that today. But Hazel was just having some really deep, thoughtful understandings of some of the toxicities that we see in others, that we've experienced ourselves, that stop each other from coming together. And one of those things that you said, Hazel, was we stop each other's dreams from coming true. How I said I felt like the toxic matriarchy that was hiding within you was trying to hold me back from making our dreams come true because you were afraid of misjudgments or the fear of jealousy from others, or really speaking your truth without being censored and burned at the stake, let's say.
Or being misled again.
Or being misled, and everything that goes through narcissistic abuse through all three lines of consciousness.
And then that just spurred up the vibration within me, actually, of, goodness me, just first of all acknowledging that my fear has been preventing you from coming out, developing, growing your dreams, and therefore growing our dreams, and that impacts the relationship. By right from the beginning, when I realized that coming into harmonious partnership wasn't just about, oh, I make sure that I'm okay first and then I can have a good relationship. I saw that it didn't work like that. In the new way, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And this is how we've been working, because with what you've just shared, it fundamentally impacts you, it impacts my relationship with you, and it impacts what we create together simultaneously across the board when there's something toxic. And this is what's not seen in relationships. And I was saying, so I turned the tables on that, and I saw that for myself. And it brought up the same vibration of all those times that I felt you were interfering from me stopping doing my work or getting
interruptions,
or getting the work done, or needed attention, or whatever it was. And of course I recognize that back through the narcissistic abusive relationships I've had as well, where nothing has been able to be created in relationships.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because if people are tuned in for the first time, they'll be like, we've kind of delved into deep into our story, but why don't we start from the beginning of when we first met, and then, excuse me, and then we can understand why you and I talk about narcissistic abuse so much. Right? Yeah. Bingo, right?
Yeah. People are like, at first they might be triggered by it, but then afterwards they'll be like, hold on a minute. They found a way.
Yeah. So we found the way together.
Yeah.
But that came through me making an enormous sacrifice, right?
Yeah, how do you want to tell it? Like the straight way
I'll
or the
tell it.
comedy way?
Well, it's all a comedy. It's all divine comedy. When you look, I mean, it is now.
It
It
is.
wasn't at the time. We nearly killed ourselves.
Yeah.
There's several occasions
Yeah.
because of what other people did to us, just because we were love. But we'll laugh about that later. So I'll just give a quick synopsis of my journey,
Yeah.
and that can lead into yours, and then we'll talk about when we met on December 13th,
Yeah,
2020,
yeah,
and how that
yeah.
changed both our lives
Yeah.
forever.
And then how that impacts what we're actually talking about with this be able to create your dreams or destroy your dreams, essentially. Because so we want to get to that point because most relationships are destroying themselves.
Yeah,
And we're saying actually we were born from destruction already.
yeah,
That's part of how we met. Go
yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just do a skim of my story because it's quite deep and it goes on for a long time. But to make a long story short, I received a lifetime of abuse from a very young age. My parents had a very belligerent divorce, and there was a lot of dark energy. And because of what happened between my mother and father, it was very belligerent. I mean, I won't go into details at this stage, but it created a divide. And when I mean a divide, I mean like a dimensional divide. It was like I lived in that house when I was a kid with my mum and dad and my brother and my sister, and you know, back then the streets were quieter. This was the 80s, and there were hardly any cars on the street, and playing outside was golden, and computer games, you only played them for a little bit, and there was no addictions back then. And that day when my mum left, it was like well, I know for a fact that it opened up a demonic portal, and demons came in to the house and started to overtake my father and my brother, and eventually myself. And it was because of the light that I was shining. My light was really, really strong. I mean, I was so adorable. I still am, but
Big yourself
I've
up.
had to reclaim that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to honour that inner child
Yeah,
in
yeah,
me.
totally.
And because of what happened, a lot of abuse happened internally in the family, and that was beaten into me, for lack of a better term. And then violence kind of followed me. Um, and like I've written, I just recently, in building my website, I wrote on there, I was just channel writing about my journey, is that it didn't matter how many times violence knocked me down, I always stood back up. And it took me a long time to say no to that because it followed me. When my mother got custody of us, it followed me there. And then when my brother went to university, I was walking up the street with two mates, and we were just walking, and a car pulled up, and four guys jumped out with bats and smacked me around the back of the head. And then a few weeks later, I was up with some friends, and there was just so many instances of violence. But it all changed when I went to university, and I'd had a few drinks, and I could hardly walk. I was on my friend's shoulder, and I wanted some chips, and he let me go, and I couldn't walk. I stumbled, and I fell into the biggest guy in the chip shop, knocked his chips out of his hand. He went mental, threw my mate over a car and kicked him, and his friend. I went for him, and his friends held him back, and my friend held me back. And my friend walked me away calmly, and I turned around and said, "You Jeffin a-hole," and he ran at me like a train, and my head hit the curb, split open, and parts of my head that the curb didn't see to, he saw to with his feet. Let's put it that way, and that completely changed my life. And I'm only telling you some of the the small parts that have happened to me. This is the most memorable one that changed my life, and I went on a dark spiral down And I didn't realize until I began this journey with Hazel, but it was actually part of my soul path. Can you believe it or not?
Mm.
To go that deep into healing, to let go, to lose everything, and to climb back up and reclaim
Mm.
it all in purity. That's what I had to do. But
That's
because of
one of the things I want to say actually that you said
yeah,
about the being the soul path, because how we actually work together is I believe that we work beyond what is available at the moment, because we use all of that, psychotherapy, all of that trauma healing, plus what you've just said. We acknowledge it as part of the soul journey. And then from there we can unpack it and understand it.
yeah. So I won't spend too much time on what happened to me, but I want to say that the what happened was I fell really deeply into the toxic patriarchy. And they say that you become whoever's closest to you. And you know I was surrounding myself with just normal people, but um as I grew and journeyed through life, all of those distortions that I bought, that other people were selling, that women aren't great, and that men do this, and all these different distortions, so many of them, I started to absorb those from other people. And it got more and more difficult for me because it got more and more dense, especially uh, as I left university. I was so vulnerable after what happened to me that more and more people took advantage of me, and I got abused by bosses at work severely. Um, some really horrible things happened, and it was very difficult for me to pull myself up. And I knew something was wrong, and but nobody would confirm it. Everybody just wanted me to stay where I was. And because there's so much shame around admitting that you need help, and I really wanted to help. Really wanted someone to say, "This is what's up." But everybody just kept saying, "No, oh, you're just a dick. You're just not a nice person." And I was like, "This just isn't true.
Mm.
This isn't true."
Yeah. Gosh,
Yeah,
like when you're down, that's when people take advantage of you. It's like one
yeah,
of the dynamics we've been working through recently.
ransacking energy.
Yeah, about when you feel down, because you noticed, I just want to take that example. The other day, a few weeks ago, my energy shifted because I came into my premenstrual week. So therefore my energy came down. And then you said, this is really weird things that are happening. I feel like I want to bully you.
Yeah, right.
And
Mm.
this is it. It's like when you're down, people want to go, oh yeah, look how awful that person is because they're down. And this is what happens through family dynamics. This is what happens in the same, well, he's there or she's there, it's their fault.
Yeah, but did you know why that happens? It's because that person is that person. So, i.e., you're letting go of aspects of shame, right? And so that exposes and is mirrored in the other person. And if that other person isn't letting go of their shame, they're attaching to it, and so it mirrors back that energy of bullying.
And it,
Because bullying comes from the spirit animal of the bull, and its gift is heart presence. So if you're not present in your heart, it exposes the bullying and the other shadows. Yeah, exploitation. That's the other shadow.
yeah.
Exploitation. So that comes up. We'll come back to my story in a second,
Mm,
but that I just want to point out that that's how men exploit women into sex.
mm,
Yeah, and we spoke about how bullying is just another form of narcissistic abuse that happens when a woman shows weakness in front of a man.
or vulnerability. And
Yeah,
that's why people
yeah,
are not able to show vulnerability. One of the reasons.
yeah. So my story, because of the a lot of the abuse I received, I took on a lot of narcissistic traits, and obviously most of those narcissistic traits I learned early on as a child. That's when you pick most of those up from family. And um, when I finally got the courage to leave my hometown, it's like that's that thing they do in America in the movies and stuff. Like, if you don't leave that hometown, you never leave, and you never find your dreams.
Mm,
And so I left and I went to London, and it was a good teaching for me again, And I actually learned a lot. I mean, it did change my life because I got a job. I thought it was a great job at the time, but I was working in finance because that's what I fell into after university. After you get your head kicked in, what can you do? So I fell into temping jobs like packing boxes and scanning. Oh, it was horrible. It was horrible. And so I found my way into a journey of finance, which was horrendous. The only thing that kept me going was the people in it, but it was also what stopped me as well was the people in it. So there was always this mixture of trying to find people I could relate to, be myself and run and enjoy this mind-numbing work. But the abuse and the rules were so intense. But when I got to London, it was actually more lax. It was more relaxed, and there was actually more freedom, but there were more rules. So even though there was more freedom, there were more rules, right? And one of the things that I saw as a big advantage, and it completely changed my life, is that I got a job at this big bank in 2015. So imagine I got my head kicked in 2000. That's 15 years of self-abuse, not knowing what was happening to me. I mean like self-physical abuse. I used to hurt myself. I used to cut myself.
Did you?
Yeah, I used to run my knuckles down.
Oh yeah, you said, yeah.
The walls and stuff. Yeah, I used to drink a lot. I was essentially an alcoholic.
And I want to keep bringing this back to the subject that we actually opened this up with is making your dreams come true and the impact of the toxic behaviour and what happens to you.
But if we don't understand our origins, we can't understand how to make our dreams.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's great that you're sharing your story, and I just want to, because it's really, really rich, and just keep weaving back in.
Yeah.
Because one of the reasons why you went into self-harm and drinking a lot and even pursuing a so-called career that's actually a dead end is because of your dreams being knocked out of you or taken away from you.
Because I was hurting my soul by not following my dreams.
Yeah, exactly.
So I hurt myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that happens even when you're on your own, and you have to go through all of these trials and tribulations, let's say.
Yeah.
To heal them on your own. But then I want to weave it back to healing in partnership as well, because you healed a lot on your own, right? You healed a lot of that on your own until we met.
Yeah, and I'm getting, that's the best bit. I'm getting to that. I'm noticing my voice is dimmed a bit because this is very vulnerable for me. So, I don't want people to switch off just because I'm talking about deep stuff. That's what normally happens to me. People switch off when I start telling my story.
Don't worry, people get hooked on it soon because they'll realise the truth in it.
Yeah. So I got this job, and one of the benefits that I never had before is you get health insurance, which for me was great. And I got a half-price membership, which is how I met one of my mates, Javier. And what happened, right? And this is a real life changer, and this will help a lot of people out there. This will help a lot of people. Is I had a free health assessment called a 360 health checkup with Nuffield Private Healthcare, and I was settling into my job. I began, I think, in July or August of 2015. And the people were so lovely. My boss was amazing. Her name is Tina. She was from California. Eventually they sacked her because she was too nice to the employees. Can you believe that? That's true.
Wow.
Yeah, I could tell. She was lovely. And she got so much productivity out of me that I don't understand why they got rid of her. She was perfect. She was the best boss I ever had. She was so laid back and gave me the room and confidence and belief. I just became completely autonomous. It was amazing, and so I was really upset when she left. But she had already given me the gift, and I actually went to visit her in California when she got fired.
Wow.
Yeah, she's amazing, and really, really amazing. And I went for the 360 health checkup 3 months later, so must have been in October, November, and it was really, like, for me it felt advanced. It's probably not advanced nowadays, but they did this Bluetooth on my spine to check out how my spine curvature. They put me on a bike and they put a Vox thingy in my mouth and linked it to my heart rates and measuring my health and fitness. And my physical health was great. It was great because, you know, I'd done 10 years of martial arts to overcome, you know, to make myself feel confident enough that I could walk on the streets without getting my head kicked in.
Yeah.
I forgot about that bit. Yeah. And that's a whole other story. And then they said, okay, the last bit is you go and spend an hour with the doctor. And I was like, God, what am I going to sit with a doctor for an hour? Yeah. And it only ended up being about half an hour. And if I'm honest, the guy was a bit weird. Because he wanted to check he was too eager about checking my genitals, and I was like, no, thank you, no, it's okay.
No way.
Yeah, I've never shared that. Yeah.
No way.
I thought that was really weird. Yeah.
That is really weird.
Yeah. He was like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure, mate. Yeah, no, thank you. But what he did really help me with, and I thank him here, is he said, do you have any problems sleeping? And I said, oh yeah, I've had problems sleeping ever since I got my head kicked in. He said, oh, you got your head kicked in? I was like, yeah. He goes, can you tell me a bit more? And I was like, yeah. He goes, I think you've got a problem. I said, yeah, I thought I did. And he goes, do you want to see someone? I said, I'd love to. Is it free? And he goes, well, with your health insurance, yeah, we can get up to 6 sessions. I was like, okay, great. That's a great start. When do you want me to book you in? I go, now? He goes, can't do now, but how about 2 weeks? I said, yeah, great. And I ended up getting 18 free sessions, right? Because you're allowed to say, I actually really need this. And I managed to get 3 lots out of them, which was amazing because it was expensive.
Of therapy.
Yeah, psychotherapy. So it was called CAT, which fits me because I've got a lion heart, CAT.
Yeah.
And it stands for cognitive analytical therapy. And I met this guy who dealt with a guy who, sorry, I missed no, I haven't missed it. I'm just about to get there. He sent me to this private hospital in the middle of Marylebone, which is a really nice area of London. And I met this really well-dressed guy, really spoken well and just really lovely. And he only looked about 10 years older than me, but he looked extremely wealthy and just well accomplished. And he sat in front of me and he said, tell me a bit about yourself. And he just listened to my story and he just wrote notes. And one of the things I told him was that that when I'm in the symptoms of what I was going through were worse when I had a shower. And that's where he managed to make his diagnosis of complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And I was like, oh, right. And it was such a relief to hear that. I don't feel like that now because I see what it was. But back then it was like, oh, somebody's acknowledging me that I knew something was wrong. Something needed correcting, healing.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's what everybody's doing right now. Yeah.
I mean, he missed out a few other things, but I think back then it wasn't as popular because I definitely believe... well, we definitely know that I had bipolar as well, and ADHD and all the other letters that they throw at you these days. And so as soon as that happened, I ran with it. And I saw a therapist and became friends with him. And we went really deep and he said, wow, you're doing really well. I've never had a client that's moved this fast before. And I was reading every self-help book I could find. And I was seeing this guy for 5 years. And in the meantime, I was using that half-price gym membership. And I was learning about meditation, biohacking. I was doing Pilates twice a week. I was doing yoga. I was built, you know, I was rebuilding myself. But I was also still entertaining my addictions. I was drinking alcohol and sometimes I was even taking cocaine and MDMA. So I still had a lot of growing to do, and one of those things that really helped me grow was changing my diet. That had a really profound effect on me. Really learning how to re-nurture myself through biohacking, which I don't go so much into these days because of all the nonsense around scientific abuse that's in there. But some of the basics I relearned of how to re-nurture myself really helped me get where I was. But then I hit another dead end. Like, I tried so much. I tried, you know, if I listed out all the stuff that I tried, you'd be like, whoa, how did you manage to fit that in such a short time? I mean, I even had stellate ganglion injections into my neck, which ended up numbing my heart. I went through psychiatry medication. I was even injecting myself with peptides. I was injecting my peptides into my legs and my arms.
Yeah, I think this is really significant in showing how trauma affects your daily life again and stops your dreams from coming true. And what happens is, and this is because we're all about alignment, what happens is, and what we're seeing from your story is, you're trying everything. You're trying as many concoctions, remedies, anything you can to stop this pain from being felt within you.
Yeah.
And in a way, like you're talking about these shots you had in your neck, right? To stop you from feeling your heart. Okay. So again, this comes back to society created a problem, right? Because the split up of your family and the destruction of the family, the destruction of the tribe happens because our society and how it is run is responsible for the destruction of our tribes. It's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And that has whittled itself down over thousands of years until this moment now, where we're able to see it for what it truly is and the impact that it's having on people. And listening to your story, you're saying, you know, this escalated into you not being able to have your dreams come true, and then you trying to make your dreams come true, but also the addiction to these other things, getting diagnosed. Maybe then when you're diagnosed, then it will be okay. But it still wasn't okay. And this is what I value. Like, one of the most powerful things about you is, like, you'll try everything and it's like, no, that's still not it. That's still not it. That's still not it. And keep going.
Yeah.
And I think in some spiritual realms, you're sort of taught in a way, you know, to just come to peace with everything, accept everything. But what I have also learned as well,
that leads to grandiosity as well.
Yeah. And what has been so amazing about working with you is that we've found alignment through all of this, all of it.
Yeah.
Where is the true point in love? Where you learn how to feel again, where you break free from any diagnosis that anyone gave you outside of you, and you heal truly from deep within you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that maybe this particular episode will be, because it's such a long speech, will be my story. Then we could do your story episode 2, and then we can link how this connects to the beginning of our journey, because
because when we started this conversation, we started about how men and women in relationships stop each other from their dreams coming true, and this is all part of that.
Yeah.
And we said, oh, why do we speak so much about narcissism? And that's what you were getting.
Yeah. No, I'm getting there. There's just a little bit left, where I speak about the diagnosis and the self-improvement that I went on. I went on this journey of just taking responsibility for everything. You know, we actually been working ceremonially recently, and last night we were discussing this, wasn't we? And I said, well, what would God do? God would say, well, I'm responsible for this mess, so I'll take responsibility for everything. And if I can do it, anyone can. And that's what I've done. It's just took responsibility for everything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's been really tough on me, but it shows how incredibly strong and devoted I am to healing my heart and reclaiming my heart, because losing my heart was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And losing my senses, you know, because it took me into disassociation from love, and which meant toxic patriarchy.
Yeah, and this is what I need to say. You were led into that, and then you were coaxed by society or the pharma industry to say, hey, we've got a shot you can stick in your neck to stop you from feeling your heart even more.
Yes, selling the soul.
Yeah,
selling the soul.
Yeah, and that's what how it works, and that's what we've been reverse engineering.
Yeah, reverse engineering the manipulation of demonization of love.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about this the other day. The true meaning of addiction is selling memories, so selling pieces of your soul, selling feelings to for lack of a better term, to the devil, let's just say, and he gives you a piece of, say, sugar that fits just nicely in that place, and he keeps the soul, and so that you don't have to feel that pain.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not in that moment, but it will come back around.
Right. Yeah. Well, if every time we look at it, we feel shame because we gave that piece to the devil, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so then we go back to the devil and we say, I want that back. And he's like, oh, well, if you want it back, you're going to have to feel it. And that person's like, oh, no, no, I don't want to feel it. Well, then you can't have it back. And it's like, okay, I'll feel it. I'll feel everything. Give me everything back. And he's like, no, it's mine.
And then the games begin.
Yeah. Yeah, so I called the devil's bluff, and I won.
Yeah,
I won.
yeah.
Yeah. So what happened after doing all this self improvement, took responsibility for everything, and I was doing everything I could, a bit like Bruce Lee, learning something from different martial arts and keeping what worked. And never becoming stagnant, never becoming lazy, and trying best not to, and just keep growing, keep evolving. And then I was getting nowhere with my psychology. It was becoming stagnant, and I could tell it wasn't me, it was my therapist. And so one day I said to myself, I'm getting a bit fed up of my mind. All I can hear is my mind telling me how everyone's a piece of shit, or they're fat or ugly, or insult. And he said, oh, yeah, I know what that is. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, oh, that's narcissism. And I went bright red with rage. I was like, you knew, and you've taken 5 years to tell me? I didn't say that, but I was like, oh, okay, what do I do? He goes, just start writing down your thoughts. And it lasted, it was a 5-minute exercise. I didn't need to write down all the abuse that I was saying to everyone, before realizing, okay, I've got a problem here. I need to look at this one. And it was the biggest one. It was all of it. Everything I'd done before then was just looking at trauma and identifying my emotions, which is extremely important, I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to identify my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to label how I was feeling because my heart had closed.
Mm.
And most of that was because I was going through the feeling of apathy, where I just wanted to die.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to move. I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to chase my dreams, nothing. And so that's why I fell into alcohol and playing computer games and whatever else that took my mind off that. That's why learning martial arts and going into exercise and nurturance was my way out of that. And I thank my friend Steve who helped me do that.
Yeah, that's such a gift.
Yeah, and so this acknowledgement that I had narcissistic behaviour. I remember I went outside, and it was middle of winter in London. It was pissing down, and I was just stood there like going, well, I need to know everything about this now. And I got my phone out and I started buying books on narcissism on Amazon. I did. I'm hardcore. I was like, I'm going to get this right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, you must be the only person on the planet who gets diagnosed as being a narcissist. And you're like, right.
Yeah.
But I just want to acknowledge that for a moment, because what a gift to actually have a psychotherapist, first of all, who identifies that. Because I do believe that there's a lot of psychotherapists out there who don't even know that.
Or wouldn't say it.
Or wouldn't dare.
Yeah.
Because we talk about this. There's such a big shame veil around narcissism. And people don't want to be in a narcissistic relationship. They'll even say that, oh, it's not narcissism, it's just bullying. Or it's not narcissism, it's whatever shame veil they want to give it.
Yeah.
So I just want to acknowledge you there for your, I don't know what force you have within you of going, oh my God, I've just been told that I've got narcissistic behavior. Let's find out about this. Like, wow.
Yeah. Well, I have a beautiful force inside me of devotion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're the most devoted person I've ever met.
Thank you, darling. Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, you really are.
So just to continue, I'm doing really well of remembering. I think we did well in reclaiming our memory, because I'm managing to pick up where I left off, whereas before that would be really difficult.
Yeah, that's really good.
I congratulate myself for that.
Progress.
So I was stood outside in the rain, doing all my research on narcissism, right? But I didn't get very deep with it, because how did I do it? Right, yeah. So that happened pretty late. That must happen in 2018. And by then I had started biohacking, right? Yeah. So it went into 2019. I discovered I had narcissism, right? And I didn't know where to go with it because there wasn't anywhere, nobody was really talking about it or advertising it. And the books were a bit off for me. And like the book I bought was How to Kill a Narcissist. And everything that I read, right? And this is the turntable. This is why I'm so amazing at curing narcissism, right? It is, right?
It's true.
And you saw this as well in yourself.
Yeah.
That everybody, every book I read, every person I listened to, every single one of them pointed the finger at someone else. And I turned and pointed the finger at me.
How did you do that, man?
It's faster.
Yeah.
It just felt right. It felt right. What's the point in blaming everyone else? You don't get anywhere. You don't get anywhere. And so when I read this book, How to Kill a Narcissist, I was like, I don't want to kill myself, do I? But I did. Wanted to kill my ego, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wasn't getting anywhere, right? I wasn't getting anywhere until I was still training with my mate Steve now and then. I was going up and down from Bournemouth sometimes to London, and he would invite me with his Sifu, right? And his Sifu was really intelligent, and I told him about this podcast I was listening to about science. I was really into physics and biology back then, and the cosmos, astrology and stuff. And I was listening to this podcast that I thought was really grown up, and he goes, oh, I know that one, but if you want to listen to a really grown up one, listen to Joe Rogan. And I was like, oh, never heard of that. And I swear to you, right, I listened to one episode and I was like, oh my God, he says whatever he likes. This is amazing. And I went back like all the way, because I think when I picked up the Joe Rogan podcast, it was around like episode 1200. So I went back, and each episode is about 3 hours long. I was listening to them one after each, like one after another, every day on the subway, at work, at night, before bed, when I woke up. It was just Joe Rogan constantly, right? Because I was learning so much, because he has such a variety of guests on there. I didn't listen to any of the comedian guests or the fighting guests, because I knew I wasn't going to learn much from that, because I wanted what my soul was calling me to, and it wasn't being called towards comedy or fighting, because of what I'd been through. And so I skipped those, and I was listening to so many, but there was one that really caught me, actually. Was Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson came on, and he had changed. His whole persona had changed. And I remember Joe Rogan said, oh, you did Bufo, didn't you? And I didn't know what Bufo was. And then Joe Rogan goes, oh, have you tried ayahuasca? And it just, I don't know, my soul just lit up. And I was like, ayahuasca, I have to do ayahuasca. And I went to a biohacking session, and I think it was the first or second one I'd been to. It was just around the corner from where I was working, and in central London, and Moorgate, and they did this speech about what was it? They had these guest speakers in about the spine. Natalie, actually, who's a testimonial on my website that I helped her with integration. She worked on my spine, and she came there to do a biohacking speech, and that's how she got a lot of her customers, from those people who attended. And when her speech finished, everybody was talking, and the guy pointed to this woman and said, oh, by the way, if anybody wants to speak to Kiki, she's an ice diver and a Wim Hof practitioner. And I was like, oh, I really want to go ice diving. And so I went up and spoke to her, and she was really deep, and she was like, oh yeah, we just immediately started talking about trauma. She's like, oh, I was raped by my ex. I was like, oh wow, really? Can we I know it sounds really weird, but I was like, wow, can we meet up and talk about this? And she was like, yeah, cool, let's meet on Thursday. And I was like, wow, that's like in 2 days. Turned out she lived around the corner from me. I was living in Streatham Hill, right? And we met in Starbucks, and we started talking about mushrooms and how she'd been using them to heal. And she does a free diver. She's a free diver. She was on Netflix, right? And she said, I'm going to Holland in 3 days, and there might be some ayahuasca there. And I was like, okay. She's like, do you want to come? I was like, yeah, okay. She goes, flight leaves tomorrow. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so
I didn't realise it was that quick a turnaround.
Got on an EasyJet flight. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I met her on the Wednesday. I was on the plane on Friday, landed in the middle of Holland, in the middle of nowhere, like really far away from cities, and this countryside, this beautiful area. And I walk in, and it's like this hippie camp, and hardly anyone speaks English. And I was so afraid, I was so vulnerable. Bearing in mind, I had full on mental health issues at this point, and I was just brave enough to put myself on a plane and go through all those trains and coaches. And the bus driver was an a-hole to me, and I was like, I don't speak English, I'm sorry. I don't know what to do here. And he was shouting at me because I didn't scan my ticket.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I got there, and it was bufo, not ayahuasca. And cut a long story short, I took that, and it blew me out everywhere into the universe. And I woke up and I started crying, and he said, why are you crying? I said, it didn't work. I was looking for the silver bullet. I thought it would cure my alleged PTSD, let's say. And so I went back in for more. And there's a video of me, which I've only shown a handful of people, of 5 people holding me down because I'm convulsing, and they're pouring water over my face trying to wake me up. And I didn't experience any of that because I was so deep in it. So when I woke up, everybody was just staring at me. Either they couldn't look at me and they looked at the ground, or they were wide eyes with a jaw to match. Like, oh my God, what did you just go through? But nobody said a word. Again, nobody talks to me. Nobody tells me how it is. Yeah. They just stare at me. Right. So I didn't find out until, because I asked her to film me, but she had no, because it was in the middle of the countryside, she couldn't send it to me until she got back home. So I got the video 4 days later, and I was like, palm to my forehead. Oh no, that's why everyone was looking at me like that. Right. And then I started working with ayahuasca. And I've just done a video. It's out today actually on my YouTube channel called Charlatan Shamans, and that's when I first met my first charlatan shamans. Met a good one as well.
So I just want to keep bringing it back into how we started this podcast, that we deliver the message of what we started with.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Is that when you meet people along your journey, it's such a navigational system. When you know that there's something, for want of better words, wrong with you, that's not quite the right term, that you're searching for peace, let's say, within your system somehow, and you don't know what that is yet, searching for unification with your soul, essentially. That's essentially what's happening. You don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know who you're going to meet at what time, and you've got to navigate being your own greatest guide in doing all of that.
Yeah.
So I just want to just congratulate you again for sort of having, come out of London and biohacking and then into Buffo, and you had no idea. And then coming into ayahuasca circles. And well, you can speak about that, but it can be a pit.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, I was very
working with
I'll
sitting
talk about
in
it another
circle with
time,
others.
but I think I was exceedingly lucky to be in the circles that I was at the timing that I was.
You were, yeah.
And receive the teachings that came with that.
Yeah, your story's amazing. Yeah.
So, but I just want to honor you for such a warrior of going through all of this and not attaching to any of it. I mean, this is one of the
I did attach though. That's the problem.
All right. I'll hand it back to you then.
Yeah. So that's why the journey has been so difficult, because I had to go through all that, and so many people were abusive to me. And it's a shame that I have to tell my story so quickly, but I'm writing a book about it. But this part, the ayahuasca part, was one of the most beautiful parts of my life, because as you well know, that I was shown my future, my prophecy on my first ever session of ayahuasca. And that has come true. I was shown that I would receive the sword of truth and the Holy Grail,
And it's happening. Let's just put it like that.
It's happened, yeah.
Mm.
It happened.
Yeah.
And we're integrating that because we're a bit in shock, actually. And but the people who will listen to this, we don't know when we're going to publish that, but so, people will listen to this and it will be out there. And I did it. And it's thanks to this journey, ayahuasca really helped me. But I realized sitting, in hindsight, sitting with others in circles can be extremely dangerous and volatile if the shaman or the people in the room are not hollow and taking responsibility for their own stuff.
Yeah. So in the third line of consciousness, they actually destroy your dreams.
Yeah.
You're coming there to try and reclaim your soul.
Yes. And they're projecting and making judgments.
Yeah. And because they are not qualified to hold space, which most people aren't, because you're only really qualified to hold space if it's within your divine coding soul blueprint. Yeah. And let's face it, it's not for everybody.
It's not for many at all.
Most people are not in the right place where they should be.
100%.
So
I'd love to do an episode just on that.
Yeah, people are not in the right place.
On shamanism. Yeah, reclaiming that, because even the word has been hijacked.
Gosh, there's a lot to be
that makes me feel really excited, actually, that I can delve into that. So
yeah, and it's really about reverence to life, and that's reverence to life and love. And that's what it's all about.
To me, shamanism's all about integrity. It's all about integrity and overcoming fear with integrity to come to love. Anyway, I don't want to bore people with the constant drawing out of my story. It's just about to come to an end, and it really does link to the original question of dreams and narcissism, right?
Yeah.
So I went on this, spiritual journey of taking ayahuasca, and I noticed everyone around me was, wearing stones around their necks and putting stones in their bras and wearing all these funny hats and making their own clothes and singing all these songs and bringing a drum and a guitar and all this nonsense.
And then you are coming out
and
of
then
finance.
Me coming
in
out
London.
of finance, yeah, like wearing jeans and dressed really smart, these boots, just not fitting in, getting these odd looks. And not having any stones, which I do regret. Because we know how powerful stones are. We love them. I'm a big lover of stones.
Oh,
yeah.
You're amazing.
Thank you. Anyway, I got hijacked by a lot of dark attacks from shamans that were in the room and shamans that were not in the room, believe it or not. And I had been hijacked many times. When I mean hijacked, I was attacked in my vulnerability.
Psychically?
Yeah, well, it was more than that. I could see it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so it was dimensionally.
Yeah.
It was dark, and it all came through an energy of jealousy and suppression of my love and my heart. And I didn't know why. I was just being myself, but I fell for it. And it's essentially what hadn't been healed in me, I was attracting. Right? And at this stage, it was communal narcissism, and it was very covert, in front of me. And when there were other people in the room, he's like, oh yeah, you'll be okay. Don't worry, Alistair. And then he'd come and sit by me and go, that's all bullshit what you just said. And I'm like, is he being serious? And he's like, yeah, don't believe any of that nonsense. Everything you just told me, it's bullshit. And I was like, wow, this guy. And I fell for it.
I had that with you know who.
Okay. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Okay, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I got given a gift, and then it was like,
yeah. And I received an enormous gift, and I was sat right opposite the guy. And I could see he wouldn't stop looking at me. I'm like, why are you looking at me? And it was just pure admiration, but turned on its head into jealousy. And, I'm just mirroring back that to him. I'm not saying, oh, I'm better than anyone. I look up to everyone, and I was looking up to him. He was looking down on me. And that's why I say, never put a shaman on a pedestal. Never put anyone on a pedestal. And everybody does that. And that's my number one thing. You never do that. When you go to a ceremonial shaman, never put them on a pedestal. Just show them utmost respect.
Yeah, everybody is just human.
Yeah, it's respect and honor is different from putting someone on a
Mm.
pedestal, because if you're putting someone on a pedestal, it's like you're going to church and saying God's outside of you. It's not.
And you will not be able to sense within yourself whether they are veritable or not.
Yeah, and if you're trying to say, "Oh no, I want to serve medicine, I want to be a shaman," then you've definitely not looked at yourself. Because that is the first narcissistic response. I want that power. I
Yeah,
must be a
yeah,
shaman.
yeah, yeah,
Especially people who see Black Panthers or Jaguars in their visions. That's not what it's trying to tell you. It's trying to
yeah,
show you the shadow, which is control and judgment, which leads to grandiosity and deep abuse, especially in relationships. We had to go through that. I had to eradicate my self judgment of myself and of Hazel, and eradicate my self control of Hazel and of myself. And it's profoundly difficult. It took me a very long time. You know, some lessons take months, some take years. And control took me a long time. Boundaries, I think, was probably the longest one I've ever had to heal. Boundaries took me years to heal,
yeah. Me too.
absolutely years.
Still
And
working on it.
so now I'm going to link my story to then when I met Hazel, and this is one of my favorite parts of the story.
Oh, you're so lovely.
Yeah, so I've done a few. You know, I went to Dieta and I saw this dragon. It was on a leap year, it was the 29th of February. Can you believe that? Right when COVID hit, and landed in the jungle, and it was horrendous Dieta. Really horrible stuff happened. I think we were a group that were holding the light for what was happening at the time. But one of the things that happened was I saw this vision of my lion greeting this dragon, and they rubbed their heads against each other. You know how cats rub their heads against each other. And at the time, I was sat next to this woman from Holland, and became friends with her and her boyfriend. And um, that leads to later. But I saw this dragon in my vision, right? I thought nothing of it. And then it was October, yeah, October
And
2020.
it was then also that the shaman told you that you had a lion heart.
Oh, that was,
That was another
no,
time.
I didn't mention that because it's not really
Oh, right.
essential.
Sorry to interrupt
No,
you.
it's okay. Um, so that was in my first ever ayahuasca ceremony that he said that to me.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
not one of the later ones.
Mm.
So, um, yeah, as I was saying, um, I had come to a bit of a plateau in my healing because we didn't want to be in groups anymore, and there was a few of us. There was just me, one man, and the rest were women. And they all wanted to do this healing, but every time I wanted to say, "Okay, let's go deeper," there would be a no, or I already know how to do that. Like there was just so much grandiosity and ego. And I met this guy that showed me how to pick mushrooms from the land. And I journeyed on my own in London, which was a terrible idea. I got completely ransacked by dark magic because I didn't know how to protect myself or open my heart, which most women do because they just kept saying to me, "Just open your heart, let the light shine, just be the light, just be love, love and light, baby." And I'm like, "Oh, whatever." It does not work that way, and it's because my heart just slammed shut from all the abuse I had received, and it
Mm.
just wasn't willing to open until I acknowledged it.
Mm.
And so I did manage to overcome my fear of cowardice by journeying on my own and taking that bold step. And I unlocked the lion that was in a cage in my heart.
Mm. Mm.
And it was so thankful. I remember I was lying on the bed, and there was this spirit lion next to me, but I could see it, I could feel it, and my eyes were open. I was like, whoa, I've never experienced this before. And it was the power of my heart opening.
Mm.
But it still wasn't, it was just like a crack. It
Mm.
wasn't wide open. And I started working with my friend who was a holistic therapist, and she was teaching me about how to guide myself. And she said about integration, but she didn't really explain what integration was. And so that was another thing that I ran with.
Mm.
But she was saying that part of integration is looking at yourself and just understanding what's coming up. And I
Mm.
didn't understand how to do that, and knew I needed a woman. And I read in this article about this guy doing mushrooms on the equinoxes only and the winter solstice. And I was like, oh my God, there's a winter solstice coming up. And it's my birthday on Christmas Day, I don't want to spend another birthday with my family because there's just going to be fighting. There's going to be loads of narcissistic abuse, and I won't be able to enjoy my birthday. So I want to go somewhere. So I contacted that woman that I was sat next to in Holland. I was like, "Oh, what are you guys doing?" And her partner was like, "Oh, just come over here." And I was like, "Oh, great, I'll come over." And the guy goes, "Oh, we got this woman living on the land. You might get on with her because she's English. Her name's Hazel, and she might be doing having a ceremony." And I was like, "Wow, in Holland as well, like it's okay to take mushrooms in Holland, you know, truffles." And I remember I came over because I'd already said, to my friends, "Do you want to do a mushroom ceremony?" And oh no point in doing that. And I was like, "Wow, okay."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I found that really difficult, and so Hazel's just relighting the candle. There you go. So the I landed, I met you, which is an incredible moment. Seeing you in your dressing gown like you are now.
Yeah,
And
we're sitting at the kitchen table in our dressing gowns.
yeah, and Hazel started telling me about she's going through a really rough divorce. She'd just been divorced and separated, and that's why she was on her own in this caravan on someone's land, just complete mess and having a mental breakdown. And I said to her, "You do realise that that's narcissism?" And your whole body just lit up, didn't it?
Yeah, it was a really big bomb drop moment. It was really like the energy that was like the tension of needing to know that rises in your body. It's like, I need to know what's happening, and like the sort of kicked into survival mode brings you high up into your head in a way. But when you said that, all of that wisdom just like boom dropped right down into my root chakra and lower. And I knew that it was true because my body told me that. And to be told that by a man who knew was really incredible. It was the doorway to the missing piece that I had been looking for, I think, on my soul journey, because I had gone pretty full out throughout my whole life, constantly finding the next thing that, would unlock me to be, to embody my soul again. Essentially, that was a really big thing for me. Yeah. And I was the dragon that you saw.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
was because I'm a dragon woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll continue talking about this to keep the energy, but we'll say that's the end of episode 1.
Well,
Tune in for episode 2.
can we? Well, don't just spring that on me because I haven't really said what I wanted to say.
No, but you're going to say it now, and
Yeah.
it continues into episode 2.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
what I'm
Right.
saying.
Oh, that far. Yeah. Okay. Let's do
So
that.
tune in for episode 2, where Hazel tells her side of the story.
When I will tell my side of the story. Yeah. Yeah. And it's really yeah. Yeah. This is why we've got to start talking, isn't it? It's why we're talking. Because there are so many depths in all of this
Yeah, we
to
could
share.
tell that same story over and over and get all the gold out of it.
Yeah. So essentially what you're saying from sharing your story is that when we came together and we met in this lifetime, first of all as friends for almost a year, but when we first met and you said, "Oh, that's narcissism," I remember asking you, "How do you know?"
Yeah.
And you said something to the effect of, because,
I was one.
yeah.
Yeah.
And can you imagine what it's like being a woman at that time, being acknowledged that you are receiving abuse from your ex-husband, like actually in full-on narcissistic blowout mode I was right then.
Yeah.
Still receiving a lot of abuse from him and everyone involved. And somebody comes in as an outsider, completely objective, says that's narcissistic abuse. And I know because I'm...
Because I am one.
Because I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you, like, I remember sitting like this, like in a split second, this full on shock of that bomb being dropped. And because I'd gone through 3 months of radical transformation and death and rebirth every day, non-stop, due to this breakdown, which is like, wow, the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me.
Initiation.
Yeah. I then looked at you, and because my body was so open and such a clear vessel, I could see energetically that this man in front of me, namely Alistair, he was the one that had the keys that I was looking for in order to heal the wound of being so betrayed by the masculine, which was happening in that moment.
Yeah.
And I could see that in you. And it was because I think most people, or if you haven't done enough work up until you get to these initiation points, you're not able to pass through the initiations. But because I had done enough work and I got to that choice point with you.
Yeah. You've done enough self-work.
Yeah.
To meet me. That's really important to say that for people out there. You have to do your own work first.
Yeah. Before you're
you
able
can't
to
come
meet
into
somebody
couple.
on this level.
Yeah.
Because when this happened, and it's like, when I'm remembering it now, it's like in slow-mo, this conversation happening about narcissism between you telling me this and that you're a narcissist, and I'm like, oh my God, stay away from this man. But my soul is going, no, get closer to this man. He's got the key. Lean in.
Yeah. And I was doing my whole thing of like just being a lion, which is like just being there all the time, like hovering, like being a friend, not in a weird way, but like I remember I said to you, I got this strange feeling that I need to stick to you like glue. And I was just knocking on your door every day saying, can I come in? Can I come in? And you were like, oh, well, I've got some work to do today. Can you come back later? And I'm like, yeah. And then I just broke you down to the point where you were like, are you coming around today? You've like, I made some toast and some vegetables, and we can take some rapé and drink cacao. And I'm like, wow, yeah, totally, I'm in. And we became besties really quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just feel so blessed that you didn't leave me alone. You know, I do feel blessed that you didn't leave me alone.
Yeah.
Because those are the moments when people abandon each other. Yeah. Which is what we were saying earlier. When you're down, people go, oh, great, this is a great time to kick you whilst you're down. Right. This is a great time to abandon you.
To take everything you've got.
You see, you've got nothing. You're worthless. I'm going to leave you on the street. That's what happens. And that was happening all around me on every level. And nobody was there. Nobody, well, I won't say nobody because I have, very close people who are my dearest friends and who have been there for me. They know. And I love them as well. Couldn't have got through it without them either. Yeah. Small, not even barely handful of people. And you were there and I didn't even know you.
Yeah.
But why was that? That was because when you're in these moments of initiation, your light is shining so strongly. This is why I really love working with women who have been through narcissistic abuse or women who think they're not leaders because they've been downtrodden in this world. But I can spot a leader, a true leader, from 1,000-mile radius, because it's all to do with vibration. And I really, truly believe that, it's a fact that our souls recognize each other.
Yeah, we're truly twin flames.
Yeah.
Because we shared a purpose.
Yeah. And so this is also what we've been cleaning and clearing, is that when you're together, like truly together with someone, you're weaving an incredible tapestry of creation together. And most relationships, which is how we open this, are based on a function of being somebody who you're not and you go into a spiral of destroying each other and each other's dreams. And all of that is based on narcissism. And this is why you said at the beginning, we need to talk about narcissism in this way. And it's true, because we've unlocked how to heal narcissism that arises in relationship between man and woman. I came out of a narcissistic abusive marriage.
Yeah.
And you were there saying, yeah, I'm a narcissist. And I was like, yeah, okay, then let's work together. I mean, I would not recommend anybody do that, really. Like, this is a serious moment. Like, I do not recommend this at home.
It takes enormous accountability and responsibility from the man, because the man has to, and I'm going to say this is one of the most profound statements I have ever realised in my entire journey, is that the masculine is truly, his true purpose is protect with the feminine. And you can protect a woman from other men till the cats come home, or till pigs fly. It doesn't matter, because the true enemy is yourself. You have to protect a woman from yourself. And that is accountability and responsibility on a whole new level.
Yeah. One of those is you have to stop yourself from controlling the woman, because there's a distortion of protection that thinks, oh, I have to control the woman.
Yes.
And that is what prevents the dreams from coming true.
Precisely.
And the lack of fruition that happens.
Precisely.
And therefore that leads to separation.
Yeah, precisely. That's it. Yeah, because, for example, every time, Hazel and I play this game with each other where we raise the bar on our healing, and every time we do that, we shine brighter, which means our integration means that we're going to have to accomplish even greater things, right? So that means the dreams are even bigger. So it's like, ah! And so sometimes in the past, I've been trying to. It's like trying to grab the tail of a lion or a cheetah that's just sprinting. And you're like, what's it called? Water skiing, on dry land behind them, going, stop, slow down. She's like, I ain't stopping for anyone. And I'm like, shit, I don't know how to protect you. And it's like, it's nothing like that at all.
Yeah.
It's just, you've got to release control and have faith in each other, and realize that your own healing and your own dreams will elevate you to your own level of brilliance. But to begin with, that control and fear comes in, because I'm talking about myself here, as my dreams were too small, because I knew that my big dreams were so big that it would attract a lot of attention, and I was afraid of that attention because I didn't want to be in the spotlight. But unfortunately for my ego, that's too late now.
Self-exposure.
Yes.
Pathway to healing.
It is. Yeah, self-exposure is a big one. Again, that's the magical medicine of the bull, which I'd like to do a podcast on that soon.
Yeah.
Because it's such a magical creature. It's a true protector of the feminine. If you look at the shape of the skull of the bull, it's in the shape of the feminine's womb. That's powerful medicine right there. Big up the bull.
Yeah.
So narcissism, your journey was about bullying, actually, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we'll go into that another time, but I just wanted to highlight why we will be talking about narcissism a lot. Because I think if everybody got really freaking honest, people would then actually be able to heal. And part of that honesty is recognizing the narcissism within yourself and being able to sit down opposite each other like we do. I mean, and say, oh, that's narcissistic behavior that you're doing towards me. But at the moment, there's such a stigma on it that people don't even want to go there. And that in itself is narcissistic, might I add. That's like really covertly pushing it away.
Okay,
and so we're going to be talking into these places because it's part of the exposure system, that when you realize, actually, it's all just programming. It's all just a backlash of the trauma that has been lived and experienced. And if we can do it, which we have, and sit here and share these stories like this and say that through all of the abuse, through all of the suffering, through all of the narcissism, we've chosen the game of love. And that's why we keep raising the bar and upping the game.
Right on. Yeah. Now, I want to before we close on this episode, I want to dissect the word narcissism because it's too big. Um, it's like saying in the opposite way. Excuse me. It's like saying I love you. How much does that mean when you say it so much? When everyone says it, That's why I say when I feel love for you, I say I love you because of this. Like I think you're so beautiful and all these, and those are different forms of love. And so when we just use the word narcissism and we don't talk about shame, we don't talk about passive aggression, we don't talk about grandiosity or benign narcissism or sexual narcissism or malignant, covert, self-righteous.
Yeah.
It's about dissecting what
Yeah.
narcissism is, where it comes from,
Yeah. Yeah.
how to kill it,
Yeah.
how to heal it,
Yeah.
let's say,
And how to reap the benefits and the gold that
and where it,
comes from that.
yeah, and where it comes from.
Oh yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
interesting. Where it
Yeah.
really comes from, because
The
you can
origins,
yeah, you can say it comes from your parents, but like I did, if you keep asking why and who, you go back to source and you
Yeah.
find out where it actually comes from, and
Yeah.
it's an invasive force. It's not
Yeah.
from here.
And then the amazing thing is that you realize actually you can't hold your parents responsible or their parents. Like everybody is suffering. And this is what opens the humanitarian in me and the compassionateness. It's like, wow, everybody is in this game, this narcissistic soup of destruction, and they don't even know it, and they're all playing along. They don't even know. And even if somebody goes, oh yeah, no, I'm not narcissistic, it's like, oh my God, yeah,
Everyone is.
everybody is, and
Yeah.
everybody's in it. um, but how do we move beyond that? And that's what we've done, and that's what we're doing.
Well,
So
yeah.
I just want to say that is really important. I mean, even, I've received a huge amount of narcissistic abuse in my life. And when you've received abuse, if you haven't been able to clean and clear it, it leaks out of you and you start abusing.
Yeah.
And because we've gone so deep on healing these wounds between man and woman through divine union, healing the matriarchy within me has been, well, quite a journey in itself.
And
And
the
finding,
patriarchy.
yeah,
Yeah.
and finding actually, even though I have been a victim, yes, of a lot of narcissistic abuse, and we know why, etc., but I was being covertly narcissistic towards you
Yeah.
as the matriarchy. Because when you get so far into your journey and your divine purpose, when you've truly met your divine counterpart, you unlock all of this, and you can heal through the patriarchy, and then your man, you can start showing me how to heal these wounds of matriarchy within myself. And it's
Yeah.
wild.
That's been really challenging. But I want to give some of your medicine back to you. You said to people, have compassion for those that are abusive to you. That's how it ends up. But in the journey, you have to, just as you did and just as I did, you have to acknowledge your abusers. You have to say, this person abused me. And there goes through that took us on a journey of having to let go of that animosity we had to those people, and coming into self-forgiveness for betraying our own hearts, because we allowed that to happen, and that's the responsibility. But to acknowledge our abusers and say, well, that person can no longer be in my life anymore, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And this is where the true self-worth that you've been looking for rises from within you. This is the true energy of rising, this true energy of resurrection, the true energy of like the phoenix energy, and that wisdom comes from deep within your root.
Yeah.
It doesn't come from going to a workshop and learning how to do boundaries, although in the first stages of your evolution or on your journey, those things are important. They're like tools for your toolkit. But then the true self-worth, the true self-love, the true boundaries when they're embodied, they rise up. And this is the rising. This is the rising that everybody's looking for.
Yeah. Put that in your toolbox. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want
Yeah.
to say that when you do acknowledge your abusers, when you realize that everyone's abusing you in your life, you then realize, if you're as devoted as I am, that you have to remove those people from your life in order to grow. And
Yeah.
that's very difficult. But what it is it's an action of love. You're saying that you love those people enough to leave them to their own journey so that you can take your own journey. And when the time is right, when you have healed, you can come back.
Yeah.
Or they can come back to you and apologize.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is pretty much the case.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of that is through vibration. And I'll be speaking a lot more about this. It's vibration.
Yeah.
Vibration is that you will know the truth through vibration.
Yeah, you will. It's like, when I tried to, like, this is how silly I am, yeah. When this happens in the spiritual community a lot, right? When you sit in ceremony enough times, you get all this knowledge, right? And you want to share it. And so then you feel like you're this person that knows better, and you start telling people what to do, right? Just preaching and control. And I did this for my mum, my mum was in this, really caught up in this matrix idea of always having to work her ass off, and it was really having a detrimental effect on her physical health. And she was giving herself away to people that wanted to steal her time and her energy, because she's such a kind-hearted person like I am. And I started trying to help my mum, and to her, to honor her, she listened a lot of times. A lot of times she didn't, but the times when she did listen, I was really proud of her. And one of those things that that hits home is when we talk about narcissistic abuse, And my mum was willing enough to say, to listen and say, "Oh, I can see your point of view. Actually, how I have received abuse in my life. My mum went through a lot of abuse, and how that is created in ourselves." And I saw a side of my mum that I'd never seen before, where this mask was lifted, and there was this extremely intelligent shamanic woman that I was like, "Whoa, yeah, that must be my mum." Whoa. And but as you know, I've discussed, is that breaking of Stockholm syndrome, where it's very difficult to remove people from your life that you love, because we were told that by leaving someone, that it's not a loving action, but it is, if you're leaving that person to help them grow. And my mother helped me do that. She helped me grow. So I think it's brave.
A lot of big themes there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's brave. But we won't go too deep into the family one, because that's a big one. That's a real big one. And we'll
yeah, there's a lot of hidden things, a lot of shame, a lot of, the world wars, just a few generations ago, they heavily impact how we are today as a society. It's a fact. And all of that is trying to be covered up, and all of that trauma of just get on and, keep calm and cover up everything doesn't work. It doesn't work. And it's not working more and more. And that's, it's everywhere. It's riddled, toxicity everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's part of the covertness, the cover up, let's say, which is part of covert narcissism, which is emotional abuse. And I think from my experience, having gone through 2 really heavily narcissistic marriages, coming to terms with the impact of those. In particular, the last one was so covert, it makes you think you're going mad. It makes...
Oh, gaslighting.
Yeah, the gaslighting gets so bad.
Yeah.
And you are led and told by everybody that it's all your fault. Again, kicking you when you're down.
And there's truth to that.
There is truth to it, yeah. But not in those environments.
Exactly, but this is what I'm saying about acknowledging your abuser.
Yeah.
You receive the gaslighting energy because you're abused by being gaslit,
Yeah.
and then because of that vulnerability of being gaslit, you become a gaslighter.
Yeah.
The abuser becomes
The abuse
the
becomes
abused
you.
becomes the abuser.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, and that's what you
Yeah.
weren't able to see for a long time because
Yeah.
you'd just freshly been abused.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so we were cleaning out all
Yeah.
the toxic patriarchy in me.
Yeah.
And I really honor myself here because every time I talk about this online, the first thing men say when you start talking about toxic masculinity or toxic patriarchy are, but what about the women? What about toxic women?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, well, you got to look at yourself first. And then when the woman is ready, you don't even have to highlight it. It's going to highlight itself eventually because she's going to see in her mirror, i.e. you, i.e. me, that if I'm being kind-hearted and just saying no to any form of abuse, it's going to mirror back to you. Oh, wait a minute. Why do I feel like the bad person here? What am I doing here?
Mm.
Right. But the problem with working with toxic matriarchy is it's extremely invisible because women hide in the light, whereas men hide in the dark, and they shout about it a lot, so it's quite obvious, you know. But matriarchy is like, oh, it's so self-righteous and it's surrounded by guilt and passive aggression. It's like as soon as I would say to you, you know, touch on any trigger, self-righteous Hazel would come out and go, oh no, that's not true, that's not true. And I'm
Mm.
like, and that sends back doubt to the masculine. And so the because the masculine's not aware, speak about myself, I was not aware that you were sending me back self-doubt, which is a extremely powerful distortion. If I'd have let it in, which I did at the time, it makes your soul, angers the soul.
Mm.
It made me angry and I didn't know why.
Mm.
And that's what I really dislike about the matriarchy is it makes you angry and you don't know why because it's so covert.
Yeah.
It's so
And that's
covert.
what gaslighting does.
Yeah,
It's really freaking deep.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then it's all this cover up of, but I have it. This nice woman, this good housewife energy, just to cover it all up. It's like, yeah, well, I couldn't have done anything wrong because I'm a good woman. I'm the victim. And it's like, whoa. But
self-righteous narcissism.
yeah,
Yeah,
but for me to be able to get to that depth in order to heal that, because I received that, so then these are the things that come out when you get so far down the path of love like we have, and we keep choosing for love all along the way. And I think part of that matriarchy within me was able to come out because you kept standing really strong.
yeah,
You kept
yeah,
standing really, really strong, and you'd done enough of your healing so that we could get to that. And this is another one of the reasons why relationships fail, because you need to be able to intelligently get to this place of balance, and where both parties, you and I, we're both sitting in the seat as witnesser to ourselves and to each other simultaneously. And this is why we're able to rapidly accelerate and expand our healing and our consciousness simultaneously when we work through these things.
yeah. And the main tool that we always use. I want to finish on this because I'm pretty tired.
Yeah, me too.
The main tool we use to do that in healing is mirror work.
Mm.
So, and this is all to do with oneness, is that everything that we have a problem with or the opposite in the other is just being mirrored back to ourselves. And so if your soul is cracked and damaged, there'll be a distortion. For example, if Hazel's up on stage and she's singing a beautiful song, am I jealous or do I have admiration for her? If I have admiration for her, it means I have love for her. If I have jealousy for her, it means it's mirroring back a distortion to my cracked soul. And so I have some healing to do there on admiration and jealousy of my own gifts.
Mm.
You know, should I be up there on stage singing? You know, and that's how mirror work works.
Mm. And I will say, that our first level training, I mean, you have to go through all of these levels of training in mirror work. I thought in my last relationship, you know, he kept saying, "Oh, I'm a mirror," because it was in his constellation, but he was like a dark, freaking broken mirror.
Yeah.
And so this is where the charlatan shaman thing comes in. You know, he didn't declare he was a shaman, but he was certainly a charlatan, because especially if you're vulnerable and you sit opposite somebody who's in their narcissism and says, "Oh yeah, I know,"
Yeah.
they will break you. So, you know, you just have to find the right people at the right time and
Trust in that.
trust in the vibration, because it's love that wins over everything.
Yeah.
And it's love that will guide you and keep guiding you.
Yeah. And we're all rising.
Yeah.
We're rising. If anyone's listening, we're all rising together. And that's the second coming. That's the second coming. So I want to, this is a really good place to end, because you've just at the last minute brought in charlatan shamans. And I've just done a video on this, and I want to do more about it because I've got a lot to say. And your story involves being a shaman. So why don't we end it here? In episode 2, we'll talk about shamanism.
Yeah, beautiful. So just to wrap it up, keep working on yourself. Keep working on yourselves. Keep finding the choice points where you can choose for love again. And that choice of love comes through the vibration of the wisdom of your own heart and nothing else. It really, truly is the light of love that guides the way.
Yeah. And be very gentle with yourself, especially in these times, and switch off the news and go inside.
Yeah.
Deep into the heart.
And dance with your ancestors.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, lots of love. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Like, subscribe, like, subscribe.